And now that's what I do. I write for people in Italy and Germany and France and Spain, all in Europe. And I can work from anywhere. That was all answering the question of why I live in Kelowna.
But this is good because for years, I'm just going to interject, I've wanted to have a Stone Sisters jingle. So
I knew Tamara was going to go with this.
I'm so excited. I'm like, okay, Justin.
Oh, go for it. I've written so many jingles.
Okay, so we need one. Go for it. We need you to go for it.
I
so
have
we're going to
written,
hire you to sing
Actually,
and
just right
write
now.
They're all coming to my...
Okay, sing it.
You're listening to Real Estate for Real People, hosted by the Stone Sisters. The Stone Sisters have built an award-winning realty business, and they're here to share some of their knowledge with you. A new episode drops every Thursday. If you enjoy the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And visit www.stonesisters.com for more information just like this.
Hi, welcome back to Real Estate for Real People. We are really excited about today's guest. We were just saying we get excited easily, but we are very excited. So we've got Justin from Podigy Podcast. I almost said that wrong, didn't I?
Yes, close, but it's good. Really good.
All right, sounds good. So Justin, tell us a bit about yourself. We are excited. We're going to talk about being in your 20s and living in the Okanagan.
Yeah, what's it like?
Well, it's first of all, it's cool to be on the other side of this production because usually I'm behind the camera and the other place over there. But yeah, it's been really cool living in Kelowna. I lived in Vernon for forever, and Kelowna was always like, I guess, the big city or whatever.
Yeah.
And came here all the time, and I just love by the water, like downtown, by the fountain, and like right by all the restaurants and everything. Like that's a really special place. And when you go down there, like I haven't traveled a lot, but I've been to like Miami and I've been to parts of California, and like Kelowna is like, and my dad's traveled the whole world, and he says he's never seen a place like that area of Kelowna because it's somehow quiet and super busy and sunny and beautiful and like almost like has a tropical feeling, but not all at once. Yeah. And it's just like, there's just not a place like that. Like my dad has been everywhere because he was an opera singer. He traveled the whole world. And he said he's never seen a place like that, like so picture perfect.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah, me too. And you're right. We are so lucky.
We're so fortunate. I mean, something with Kelowna that is different than if you're in Penticton or even Vernon. They've got lakes as well, but they're at either end. And Kelowna is alongside the lake.
Yeah, for whatever reason, and I've heard like 50 people say this, for whatever reason, like Vernon didn't build around the lake. And so Vernon is like, there's lakes, but then there's Vernon. Kelowna is like, there's Kelowna, yeah. And I've lived in like tons of different places in Kelowna. Like I've lived on both ends, all by UBCO. I had 2 places there, and then I've had a place downtown. And just being able to, like, I walk outside and I just have this feeling like I'm so lucky to be able to afford to live there right now.
Yes.
Because I feel like soon I'm not going to be like people my age or in my situation are not going to be able to have that because it's going to be so much bigger. And having it in that exact moment where I'd go for a walk and it's not so busy and it's just the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's like, this is the only time, like this feels like the only time that this is going to be able to happen. And I can just walk out my front door and be there. It's like, who gets that? Like it's
true.
Yeah. And now I'm back in Vernon. I actually live in Armstrong now, and it's like a huge change. It's nice because there's no traffic and bunch of different things. It's nice to be back in the forest and stuff. But being down here was like I savored it. Like it was so good.
So tell us a bit about your experience. We've talked lots about living here in the Okanagan, and you found it hard. You were renting, and that was challenging.
Renting was like, it was actual chaos. Like it was there's no way to describe it. Like we all have good income, extremely good reputations. Like with our landlords, with our employers, like every one of my roommates has been an incredible student, an incredible employee. We all have really, really good records. Nothing has ever happened that would make us like a bad renter. And we got our first place in 2019 on Quail Ridge.
Yeah.
So over by the school. My buddies were going to school.
And you would have been 20 at that time?
19.
19 years old.
Yes.
Okay.
We came over here for my second year of college. And we lived there for a while, and then like COVID hit right away. And so we were in a nice spot. Like we had a really nice like walk by the golf course and everything, so we could go outside, and it was like really a good spot to live during that because you know there was like nature and you weren't like trapped. It didn't feel like.
Yeah.
So we had a good time being there during COVID, and then moved out of that place after about 8 months, and it was great. It was perfect. And then we had to find another place for the summer. And so we moved to Academy Hill, which is like a 5-minute drive from where we were.
Right.
And when we moved to Academy Hill, I was living in a basement of my friend's place. My one friend was living on the couch of another place for a couple of weeks while we were waiting. And my other friend had, I don't even know. Like, I think he was couch surfing. And it was 5 days before we were all going to be kicked out of where we were pretty much. And we didn't have a place. And honestly, I thought I was going to have to go back to Armstrong and commute to school every day all the way to Kelowna. And magically a place appeared and somehow we got in. It was the most perfect property that we've ever been in. Like it was a perfect apartment. And then out of there 5 months later, so we're just moving over and over again.
Wow.
And the next place that we got into, this was the place that I just moved out of now. This place was on Sunset, beautiful.
Oh, right downtown.
Yeah.
Right
Kelowna,
downtown.
Right on the water.
But the story of getting this place, so there was 100 applicants for this place. It was $3,000 a month.
Wow. How big a place?
It's 3 bedrooms, so we had 3 people. $3,000 a month, though, so $1,000 each, so it's a lot. Well, whatever you consider a lot. It was a lot for us.
That's a lot for anyone.
When we lived at Quail Ridge, I was paying $600, and the other 2 guys were paying like $700, $750 for the bigger rooms. So it was a lot. Like stuff bumped up in a couple of years.
Yeah.
So we came down here, and when we applied for this place, we got the place for the weirdest reason you could possibly imagine. Like we should not have gotten it. There's 100 people. There's people who are older. There was people who were going to pay way more money, but it was a bit sketchy. But anyways, we got this place because in the section where it says write a little something about you to see, if you're a good fit for whatever, we wrote in the notes section a link to a video that went viral of me and my dad singing a song by Ed Sheeran a couple years back. So like 2 or 3 years back, my dad and I did a video of, this is when I was living in Quail Ridge. We did a video of my dad and I singing Perfect by Ed Sheeran with the opera version with Andrea Bocelli, the Italian part.
Yeah.
And so my dad sang the opera part and I sang the Ed Sheeran part, and it was during COVID and we did it like separated. And so he filmed his part, I filmed mine, and we combined them. People loved it. It went massively viral. And I tagged that video in the notes section, and I got a call back and she said, "We've chosen you for the place." And I was like, what? Like how? They said the buyer saw the link. He had already seen the video before and he knew you from it, and he feels comfortable with you being there because he wants to give something back for the video.
Isn't that neat?
And so I was like,
wow.
And this was about 2 weeks from being homeless.
Wow.
Like I'm not homeless, but my one friend actually would be homeless because he doesn't have family here to go back to, and he can't go back home either.
So that's what it's like being renting here, or at least it was.
Yes,
so I don't know if it's changed much,
it was so
but it's
bad.
tough.
I don't think it's much better. I think it's really hard to
I always
find
had a
something.
safety net to go back to, but I do have a roommate from UBC who has to be here for school, and if he doesn't get a place here, he can't go to school, and he's already paid for it.
Right.
And so it was like pretty scary for him because we're actually talking about him not having a home.
Wow.
And so for him, I felt terrible, and so we were always trying to find a place like really, really, and like I said, as far as 22-year-olds go, we were the best possible candidates you could ever ask for.
Wow.
And we, like, by the skin of our teeth every time. We're talking looking 5 months before moving in, finding nothing.
Wow.
4 months looking every single day, checking, messaging people.
And we hear this, and at our city councillor, our mayor, there's a big awareness to increasing affordability, to having more purpose-built rental housing, and to give more options.
Yeah,
and I know there are a number of buildings underway right now. They've broken ground on some to try and alleviate some of that pressure. But
I actually have a question. Was there a time where renters had options to choose from here?
Yes.
There was? Because now it's like, you take what whatever you can get for whatever price you can get.
Yeah.
There
That's
was a
what
time
we've
where you
heard.
could actually
Yeah.
choose.
There was a time.
Yes.
Wow.
You bet.
Yeah,
I
but it's
cannot even
probably
imagine.
going back 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah,
You know, I think
probably.
the one, you know, it depends. One bedroom, you know, basement suites didn't used to be held in very high regard.
No.
Mhm.
Somebody wasn't as crazy about that, but then you could get something, you know,
Condos, like back in 2015, 2016, certainly you'd be able to.
That's
Take your pick.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I could not imagine because
Wow.
it's been so scarce.
So
yeah, it's tough.
tell us a little bit. So you're in your 20s, you've chosen to stay in the Okanagan, and you know, you could move anywhere because with what you do, you can live anywhere.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us what you do, and you know, when you got to stay here.
Yeah, during COVID is when my online work really took off, and that is the weirdest thing ever. Like, it's so strange. So I put up a gig on Fiverr. It's called a gig because I'm a singer. Obviously, my parents are opera singers from Juilliard, so I'm a singer, and I'm also a recording artist. So I know how to record everything. So I put up a gig on Fiverr because I saw that it was a cool place that people were making money doing different things. And I was like, I wonder if there's a singing section. And there was.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to throw myself up there, put a picture up, put a bio up. This is when I was about 17, 18, and I really had no experience doing anything with recording, no name in music. I mean, still don't really have a name, but at that point, literally nothing. And nothing happened for about 5 months, and I was going to school, and I wasn't making any income really. I was just kind of going to school, and I had savings. I was actually teaching guitar to make my money and driving around and teaching kids guitar and
Wow.
like just trying to scramble together some cash
Yeah.
every month. And then about 5 months in, I get a message, and he's like, "Hey, can you sing this parody for a song?" I cannot give any details about this because it was the worst thing ever. Like, I was like, I made the guy sign an NDA so that he never released my name on this because it was so bad.
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
tell him that I made up excuses, but it was the worst thing ever. But he paid me like $400 for it, and it took me an hour. And I was like, okay, that just paid half a month's rent, and it took me an
Yes.
hour. And then I was like, okay,
Wow.
cool, whatever. And then another one came in for a couple $100, and it took me half an hour. And I was like, okay, this is really weird. And then the next month, I remember it was the January. It was like right before COVID. It exploded, and it was like $5,000 in a month with
Wow. Get out.
10 hours of work. So here I am working on school like a madman
Yes.
and hardly working and making like 6 months of rent. And I'm like, this is like I'm cheating. Like, I feel like I'm cheating. I feel like I'm hacking. And so then I keep doing it, and it's like $4,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, 10 hours of work, 12 hours of work, making massive connections,
Wow.
taking people off the website, and they're becoming clients. I shouldn't say that, but because it's not allowed, but whatever. Coming clients off the
Yes.
website, and I'm really building connections. And now I work one of my biggest gigs now is I actually write music for electronic dance music producers in Europe. And that all
Get
came from
out.
Fiverr because I got
Wow.
one connection from Fiverr, an Italian DJ. His name's Fiore. He's an Italian DJ. And I worked one song with him. It blew up in Italy. And long story short, that's also how I met my girlfriend. That was her
Right.
best friend. And so we met through that connection as well, through Fiverr. And that one connection led me to another person, which then led me to 3 people, which then led me to 10. And now that's what I do. I write for people in Italy and Germany and
Wow.
France and Spain, all in Europe. And I can work from anywhere. That was all answering the question of why I live in Kelowna.
But this is
Yeah,
good because for years, I'm just going to interject, I've wanted to have a Stone Sisters jingle. So
I knew Tamara was gonna
I
go
know,
with
I'm
this.
so excited. I'm like,
Wow.
okay, Justin.
Oh, go
we
for
need
it. I've written so many
Okay,
jingles.
so
we need
go
one.
for it. We need you to go for it.
I
so
have
we're going to
written-
hire you to sing
Oh.
Actually,
and
just
write
right
it.
They're
now.
all coming to my...
Okay, sing it.
Stone Sisters.
That's
No, we
exactly
could totally
what we need.
you could totally do that.
We
like
need it. No, that's
I've written jingles. I wrote some things where there was one time where I sang a cover of an Ed Sheeran song for someone's funeral. And
Oh,
they
wow.
hired me for their mom's funeral. And so that was amazing. I've written songs for that are played at weddings for people. It's all through Fiverr. And then there's just some garbage stuff where it's just like, wow, like I can't even believe how bad this is. But I'm just like, I send it. I'm like, great song. I love doing this with you. And I leave them a 5-star review and like just say nothing and move on.
It's such a sign of how things are so different. 20 years ago, when we were your age, you couldn't have, you couldn't make Fiverr. I mean, the internet was barely out there. I guess it was, but
you had to be on the ground doing stuff.
You had to be on the ground and you were commuting and slogging
Yes.
to and from a studio, hoping to get some work.
Yeah, it's just not like that. The other thing is that my recording studio at home, it probably cost me about $5,000 I get the same kind of quality. I mean, a little bit less than these massive studios because equipment like we're using right now has come so far. This mic costs like $100. There are mics that cost $1,000, $2,000, and to the average person's ear, if you're not a music producer, you won't hear the difference.
Wow,
we could use mics that cost 10 times this, but we just don't because you don't need it anymore.
You don't need it.
Everything has become so much easier for. And that's why the freelance world and people who travel and make their money are blog writers or authors or just the weirdest things all happen through freelancing and Fiverr and gig work, and it's all online. And COVID really pushed people now you need to survive. And so you need to figure out a way to do this. I didn't take Serb because I was making this money from Fiverr and it was going really well. And it was just like Fiverr or COVID just blew that up and it made it so much bigger. People had free time, people were working on music, they were doing stuff, and my life just completely changed. And now I've got a girlfriend, soon to be fiance. And this all happened because I was sitting on campus at college. I dropped out of college to do all this, by the way, but sitting on campus thinking, why don't I just make an account? And if I hadn't made that account, I would not have met this woman. I wouldn't have any of this. I wouldn't be doing this either because it all came from that, right? Realizing that you don't need an employer. You don't even need an organization to support you. You just go and start doing it and just talk to people. Just be the person who actually just talks to people and and finds the things that they need and that are important to them and talks to them.
Justin, that is fascinating and phenomenal. Hearing your story, hearing how a 20-something-year-old not only survives in Kelowna but thrives, and
you get to choose here to live, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing here. Yeah. So cool. Yeah. Now there's a weed whacker, so we're gonna.
Now there's a weed whacker. So thank you for joining us today.
We are outside. This is real. This is uncut. This is real. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. It was awesome.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Estate for Real People. If you want to reach out to the Stone Sisters, visit www.stonesisters.com. This podcast was produced by Podigy Podcasts. See you next time.